Hi guys and welcome back to Telling Time. So, over the weekend I went to my first watch expo here in London, the Watchpro Salon 2024. Watchpro Salon 2024 was held in the Londoner Hotel, a 5-star establishment which was a first for me and definitely very impressive. Overall, I thought the expo was very well organised, well arranged and spacious enough to host all the attendees, and there were over 40 brands present at the expo, so it was definitely the largest watch expo that I've been to so far. First up at the expo was an area with some smaller micro brands, and to start off, we have a rather poorly lit store for Nomadic Watches. Nomadic Watches is a small micro brand founded in Belfast, Ireland, and starting with their Mirai 401 diver model now offers a GMT, field and even dress watch. And in hand, the Mirai 401 diver certainly felt high quality and looked pretty attractive. Next up is Moels Co, a British-based microbrand that offers another entry into the integrated sports watch category with their 369 model. Overall, I like the design details on the watch and definitely think it's a promising brand. Next we have Calibre with their Retrobot Watchwinder. Now this thing is something out of this world and could probably be considered the grail of watchwinders, if there ever was one. It was definitely really cool seeing these in person, and if I ever get to that level, I think these will be awesome pieces to add to my collection. Next we had Apair Watches, another British microbrand that creates these crazy titanium CNC cases for their watches. In hand and on wrist, they felt extremely light due to their cutout design. Although probably not the most practical of watches, these are certainly a statement of watchmaking prowess. The final watch of this section was Detrash, another British microbrand that had a very cool display. And Detrash, as the name suggests, aims to be environmentally conscious with their watches containing 80% recycled steel and straps made from recycled ocean plastic, which is an awesome mission. And at that price point, I thought that the watches looked and felt pretty nice. Moving on to the main section, we started off with Micromilspec, which had been doing its rounds on the media, so I was very interested to see what the hype was about. Micromilspec is a brand that creates custom watches for the military, and this Milgraph model was developed for the needs of the Spec Ops forces. The custom design of the watch was very apparent, and on wrist, it didn't wear thick like its 15mm thickness suggests. And this is their dive watch for the NDC, which is also pretty cool. Next up we had Maen Watches, which is a Dutch microbrand that offers vintage style watches. It was my first time experiencing these watches in person, and I thought that their finishing and quality felt a bit rudimentary, and nothing really impressed me from their models. After that, we kind of reached an Italian corner of the expo, with Out of Order firstly, who came with a really cool display for their GMT watches that were inspired by cocktails. Their watches were very interesting, but with so many different variations and designs in their catalogue, I personally thought that they looked a bit cheap all lined up there, and personally not really for me. Next was Venezianico, another Italian microbrand that was first on the wave of Seiko NH34 GMT watches. I was excited to see the Nivada GMT in person, but unfortunately, I found that it was very tubby and thick on the wrist. I also got to see their diver, which was a bit better in terms of thickness. Moving on, I came across HTD Watches, an Italian microbrand that is all about reviving vintage style. I had never heard of this brand before, and I was very impressed with their models, as they were able to recreate vintage styling and even feel using repurposed vintage parts. This is definitely a brand to watch out for, and I'm getting more interested in the models after seeing them in person. After the Italian corner was good old Fortis. By now, I had become pretty familiar with Fortis, and I was particularly interested in their new release, the Fortis Vagabond GMT. And after seeing the media run of it, I really wanted to like this watch, but in person, I didn't really connect with it. I thought the case was too chunky and angular and a bit too out of left field for me. After Fortis was one of my favorite brands, Nivada Grenchen, that had a plethora of models for display. And I was particularly interested in their newly released models, the Antarctic GMT, Chrono King, Chrono Sport, and precious Stone Dial F77 watches. And getting to see all these models in person just solidified the draw of Nivada Grenchen for me. From the vintage styling, design, and perfect proportions of each model. And I've been debating really hard about picking up a Nivada Grenchen watch for my next purchase, but now I can't choose between which style of F77 to go with. Let me know in the comments which model you prefer. I was also pleasantly surprised to see Sinn at the expo, as I've always been interested in Sinn watches but don't really get a chance to see them in person in Australia. I checked out a couple of their chronograph watches, and I thought that this 356 Pilot Classic looked pretty handsome on my wrist, with this bi-compact layout and brush case. Turning the corner from Sinn, I finally came across Studio Underdog with a really fun display of their bi-compact chronograph series and field watch series. And to be honest, after seeing videos of Studio Underdog watches with their whimsical designs and seagull movements, I didn't think much of them, but in person, they had an impressive and endearing presence. And by the end of visiting their store, I was kind of won over. Next to the Studio Underdog store was another brand that I had no prior experience with, Olleg Watches, an independent French microbrand. And after seeing their Son Mai model, I was kind of blown away by them. The founder Lilian shared his story on trying something completely new and showcasing the craftsmanship behind watchmaking with his Son Mai collection. These watches had handmade, sanded, lacquer and silver leaf gilded dials that are manufactured in Vietnam using an ancestral crafting technique known as Son Mai. And even the loom application used a technique that was unlike anything I've seen. Honestly, it was a very humbling experience speaking with Lilian and discovering his brand, which taught me a lot about watches and watchmaking. And finally, to round it all out, I visited the Serica and Olleg Wajs stores. Serica is another French micro brand that offers watches with a very distinct design language. And I thought that their models were very nice and had a definite charm to them. I was especially drawn to their travel chronometer GMT watch and their dive watch. Meanwhile, Olleg Wajs or OW is a little known but historic Swiss brand that is currently undergoing a revival with reissues of their historic models. They had an awesome display with the new owner showcasing some of the actual surviving vintage pieces from the brand's archives along with the modern reissues. I thought the watches were really cool and OW is definitely a brand to watch out for in the future. So, that brings me to the end of my adventure at Watchpro Salon 2024. I had a blast at the expo and it was definitely one of the biggest and high quality watch expos that I've been to so far, with even more brands that I couldn't cover in this video. I hope you spotted something of interest, and if you did, let me know in the comments and it would be great if you could like and subscribe for more watch coverage. And as always, I'll see you guys next time.